You've done the math 100 times in your head. Sell the house here, buy one twice the size somewhere with no state income tax, and suddenly you're rich. Your rent is half. Your grocery bill drops. Somebody on TikTok did it, and now they own a lake house. So you open a spreadsheet. You compare median home prices between where you live and, say, Tennessee, and the number staring back at you looks like a miracle. And you'd be wrong. Not about the housing being cheaper, it is. You'd be wrong about what cheaper actually buys you. Because the state that saved you $400,000 on a mortgage is about to take a very different $400,000 out of your life, just slower, and in a way nobody puts on a billboard. My name is Farn, and I've spent an unreasonable amount of time reading interstate migration data and cost of living reports, which is exactly as thrilling as it sounds. If you've ever watched a moving van pull away from your neighbor's house toward Florida or Texas and felt a pang of financial FOMO, hit subscribe, because today we're finding out what actually happens to people who make that move. Some of them win. Most of them just trade one set of problems for a set they didn't know to price in.
Let's start with the number everyone's chasing. Between 2020 and 2024, roughly 3.3 million more Americans moved out of high-tax, high-cost states than moved in. Places like California, New York, and Illinois bled residents. Places like Texas, Florida, and Tennessee absorbed them. And the headline math is genuinely seductive. The median home price in California sits around $780,000. In Tennessee, it's under $400,000. On paper, you just found yourself a free down payment on a second life. But here's what the spreadsheet doesn't show you. Cost of living isn't one number. It's a bundle of a dozen different numbers. And states that look cheap on housing are frequently expensive everywhere else, just quietly, in categories you don't think to Google before you sign a lease. Start with income tax, since that's the one everyone leads with. Yes, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and 6 other states charge 0 state income tax. That sounds like free money. Except states don't run on vibes, they run on revenue. And if they're not taking it from your paycheck, they're taking it somewhere else. Texas has some of the highest property tax rates in the country, averaging around 1.6% of home value annually. On that same $400,000 house, that's $6,400 a year, every year, forever, whether the house is paid off or not. Compare that to a state like Colorado, where property tax runs closer to 0.5%. Suddenly, your zero income tax state is quietly billing you thousands more just to keep the lights on in a house you already own.
Then there's sales tax, which nobody factors in because it's invisible, a few cents at a time. Tennessee has no income tax, but its combined state and local sales tax averages around 9.55%, among the highest in the country. Every grocery run, every car repair, every birthday present adds a tax that never shows up on a chart comparing cost of living. Now, let's talk about the part nobody puts in the relocation TikTok: wages. The reason housing is cheap in a lot of these states isn't some economic miracle. It's that the jobs pay less. Median household income in California sits around $91,000. In Tennessee, it's closer to $64,000. That's not a rounding error. That's a $27,000 pay cut baked into the cheaper state before you've spent a single dollar on rent. If your job doesn't come with you, remote work or a transfer, you're not comparing cost of living. You're comparing cost of living against a smaller paycheck, which is an entirely different math problem, and it's usually worse than the one you started with. Let's put a real household through this, the way we always do. Call them the Reyes family. Combined income of $140,000 in Los Angeles. 2 kids. Tired of a 2,000 square foot house costing $1.1 million. They moved to Nashville. Home price on a comparable house? $450,000. They celebrate. They think they just banked $650,000 of life-changing money. Except one of them worked in entertainment production, a California concentrated industry. And their new local salary for the same title comes in $31,000 lower. their household income drops to $109,000. Property tax on the new house runs about $7,200 a year, versus roughly the same in LA, so that part's a wash. But car insurance in Tennessee runs noticeably higher than the national average due to accident rates. Health insurance premiums in the individual market are higher than California's subsidized exchange plans. And without state income tax revenue, Tennessee spends less per pupil on public education, which means the family that moved specifically to give the kids a better life now faces a choice between an underfunded public school and private tuition they didn't budget for, averaging over $11,000 a year per kid. Add it up, and the $650,000 windfall on paper turns into something much smaller in practice. Some of it went to the pay cut. Some went to insurance nobody warned them about. Some went to private school tuition they never planned to pay. The house is still cheaper. The life around the house quietly closed most of the gap.
This is the part that should reframe how you think about it. Cost of living calculators compare groceries and gas and rent. They don't compare school funding, healthcare access, job density in your specific field, or what happens when you need a specialist and the nearest one is 90 minutes away because the state you moved to has 1/3 the doctors per capita of the one you left. They don't calculate the cost of flying back for every holiday because your entire support network, your parents, your babysitter, your best friend who watches your dog, all still live 2,000 miles away. None of this means the move is a mistake. Plenty of people genuinely come out ahead, especially if their income is remote, their field pays the same everywhere, or they're retiring and no longer need the job market at all. Retirees moving to no income tax states with Social Security exemptions can legitimately save tens of thousands of dollars a year, because the variable that usually eats the savings, your paycheck, isn't in the equation anymore. But if you're moving for a job, if your industry is regionally concentrated, if you have kids who'll need specialists or private school, run the real numbers first. Not the housing number, all of them. Property tax, sales tax, insurance, local wages for your exact job title, school funding per pupil, and the actual cost of getting home for Thanksgiving. Because the state that looks cheap on a spreadsheet and the state that's actually cheap for your specific life are frequently two very different places. And the gap between them is exactly the amount of money you thought you were saving.